Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Wednesday Web Chat. This is Carl Lewis. I am your host this week. First off, I just want to wish all of you a very, very happy Thanksgiving, and hope that you enjoy the time in the next few days with friends and family, as I plan to do, and we here at Vision 33 plan to do. Today, we're going to take a look at something that periodically we do is just take a little look at a tip and trick regarding crystal reports. The topic today will be really related to how I combine invoices and credit memos in the same crystal report. This is a question that comes along a lot, and whether you need a query to do this or report, the same basic skill will help you do that. It's fun. So moving into our little lesson today, let me just switch out of this application and go over to a demo version of SAP Business One. So many times people want to know, how do I get a report of all invoices and all credit memos? Because I really can't look at the exact overall situation of an account unless I have them. Now, I'm not going to finalize a report today necessarily, but I'm going to show you how and the easiest way that I know to really create either a query or a crystal report that has the data in it that I'm looking for that combines both invoices and credit memos. So here's an AR invoice in SAP Business One. Let me just make sure you are seeing my screen, and you are from what I can tell. And as always, one of my greatest tools is turning on system information so that as I hover over any tool and I look down at the bottom of my screen, which is giving me problems for some reason, I know that this is the OINV table. If I do the same thing in a credit memo, I know that this is the ORIN table. So one of the SQL commands that is very helpful is called the union all command function, right? So I'm going to first of all pull some information here from OINV, which is my invoices. So I put OINV in this field and hit the tab key. Now I have available to me all of the fields that are available in the invoice header, right? I'm not worried about line detail information, just the header information for the document. So I have the invoice, but if I also want to put in ORIN, just so you can kind of see, you'll notice that the field structure is identical. And that is one of the things that matters when you're trying to make this union all statement work in SQL, right? So these two statements have to be exactly alike in order to union them together. So we're going to do two select statements, one that is going to be invoices and one that's going to be credit memos, and we're going to join them together with a union all statement in the middle of them. So I'm going to, and I might do another little something here to just be sure that I can get some more detail that I like. I'm joining it also with the OCRD table, which happens to be the customer master table, right? So out of OINV invoices, I want to get my card code, and I'm going to go over to OCRD now and get the card name, right? Because in my invoice table, I have reference to the customer vendor code, but sometimes in some tables, I don't have the card name. In this case, I could get it out of here, but I wanted to show you how easy it is to just join it, because this nice little query generator we have in Business One joins the tables automatically for me, right, that I know are related, and it gives me another choice. So in this case, just because I don't really need it because it's already referenced there, and it's also referenced in ORIN, my credit memos table, I have both the customer code and the customer name, I can actually delete that customer table, because in this particular case, I don't actually need it. So out of OINV, I'm going to ask for the card code, and now I'm going to ask for the card name. And I want the document number, and I would think that the document type would be helpful, but it's really the object type that I want. Is it an invoice or is it a credit memo? This is going to tell me the object type. So I want to know that there. I want to know its status. For instance, is it open or closed or canceled would be something I might like to know. And the doc date and the due date, right, would be things that I want to have. What else? I'm definitely going to want to know what the balance is, right? So I want to know what the document total is currently. So that's probably everything that I'm going to need out of my invoices table. So I can continue to edit things here if I want to, but I'm going to use this as the basis for a crystal report. So I'm actually going to execute this. And why would I not get anything? I must have made a mistake. I certainly confused it. So what you can do every now and then if you delete a table in the middle of writing a query, so we'll just generate it again quickly here and put OINV. And out of this one, I'm going to start it again with the card code, the card name, the document number, the object type, the document date, the document due date, and the document total. There we go. And I'm just double-clicking on those, and it's adding them to the statement automatically, right? Now I'm going to execute it, and lo and behold, I didn't confuse it that time, so I actually have some data here. Now, in order to use this in Crystal Reports, I need to click the little pencil, which allows me to edit it, and then I can select this statement, right? And I can copy it, right? And I'm going to move now to Crystal Reports, and just for your purpose here, I'm going to create a new one, a new blank report. I'm going to try to use a connection that I already have. Hopefully that's going to work. And in my database expert, right, once I come here, I want to add a command. So this is how I use SQL, a SQL query in my Crystal report. And this time I'm going to add a command. Remember, I copied it, so it's in my buffer, and I'm simply going to Control-V, or I could do right-click and paste, and I have part of what I'm looking for. But remember, this is focused on from OINV, which is select the following fields from Invoices, right? That's what I'm looking for, from OINV, right? Now I'm going to put in my next statement, which is this union all, and it's two different words, by the way, union all. And I'm going to paste that same exact statement above, the select statement, again. But I'm going to edit this to be ORIN, which is credit memos, right? And if I've done this correctly, which I believe I have, everything should be in order. Failed to retrieve data. It didn't like what I did somewhere. So I'm going to try this one more time, see if I'm messing it up. But that's why you create things ahead of time, just in case. So I've got one created already in here, which I can show you. I can go to the database for this report, and I can look at the command that I've created and say edit, right? So here you get an idea, and this one's a little bit fancier, but it's doing the same thing. It's selecting data from OINV, and in this case I am using the master data table for business partners as well, right? But everything is the same in this first select statement as it is in the second select statement, except for this table name here and the table name here, Invoices and Credit Memos. That effectively joins these two tables together and gives me everything that I need, right? Now, could I do it easier than that? I could. I could do it much easier than that, actually, so that I don't even have to name the fields. I could ask for every field in the entire thing, and my statement might look considerably different. So we're going to say OK, but over here in this example, right, my database expert, I come back to this one and say add a command, and I could simply put in select star from OINV, right, union all, and select star from ORIN. And it should accept that, which it did. So now in this particular one, I'll say OK, And in this example, right, which is a very simple select statement, just because I'm asking for every field from both tables, if you look at what's here, here's my command, and here's all the fields now that are available, but it represents all of the answers in both the invoice table and the credit memo table, right? I don't often want all the fields in a table in a report, so although that's a simple way of doing the union statement, the union all statement, it's more fields than I really need. That's why in this example, that I did ahead of time, my command statement in SQL is naming specific fields that I want, right, in this command database that's being formed as the report runs. And if I take a look at that, it only has that number of fields available to me for this report, which I've now, pulled in a little bit and done some grouping with and things of that nature. And when I come over to preview, I can actually see that I have, the report in place here. And I can look, there's a company. I've got it grouping by company, and then I have a grouping by object type. So the first thing I'm going to see is these are invoices. And I could do a formula so that I could see that these are invoices. I wouldn't have to interpret this number. That's all in report design work that I can do to make it more friendly. So these are invoices, but I have it also grouping by the object type. So on the next page, here are all the credit memos. Now notice, because of the way Business One does things, these credit memos initially out of the box are represented as positive numbers. Again, I can create a formula to reverse those and represent them as negatives, because right now my grand total for this customer would not be correct. It would be overstated by $15,408.75 because that's the credit memo's total, and I haven't subtracted it in this case. I've added it because these are positive numbers, and so are the invoices, obviously, right? So there's still some design work that I might want to do with this report. Furthermore, I could create a parameter and limit it to just one customer. In this case, I have all customers on this report. So here in the first page, you see I've got ADA Technologies, but they don't have any credit memos, right? So those are the types of things that are here. So you'll see under ADA Technologies in the groupings function, they only have invoices, right? Acquient System has invoices and credit memos. Earthshaker has invoices and credit memos. Sheena does. MaxiTech only has invoices. And of course, I can navigate to just the credit memos for any of these customers by clicking on that 14 and going to credit memos and seeing they have the one credit memo. Or back to invoices for Acquient Systems simply by clicking on the group title. So that union all statement and its general function is something that you'll want to keep as kind of part of your bag of tricks as a person who's going to use Crystal Reports. That could be very helpful to you because you could do it with many tables in Business One that are designed exactly the same. And if you think about it, this would work too on the purchasing side, because in purchasing, right, on the AP side of Business One, your purchase invoices and your purchase credit memos are identical in structure also. They simply have different table names. So all of the documents in all of the marketing series, quotations, purchase orders, they're all structured exactly the same as one another. So the union all statement can help you bring one, two, or more tables together, all into one big query so that you can evaluate the documents in a collective group as opposed to separately. So that was the little tip and trick that I wanted to bring to you today from Crystal Reports. Not a long session. I know that most of us have a short day today, many of us leaving at noon to celebrate the holiday. I wanted to bring you that brief lesson, little tip and trick. You see if anybody has any questions. I'm not seeing any show up yet. And if ever we can help you with anything related to Crystal Reports, we'll gladly share with you what information we have. The 2014 calendar for Crystal Reports training sessions will come out sometime in January. So you'll start seeing announcements about the 6 or 7 training sessions we hold a year for Crystal Reports. And this particular way of doing a report is not taught in the class. So this is sort of an advanced skill to be able to create a SQL command and to then, in some cases, utilize a union all statement in addition to a SQL command to generate a report. A couple of cautions about using commands is that recognize that the command runs on the workstation that is running the report. So if the workstation is underpowered, doesn't have significant memory, and if the command will generate a lot of data, right, for the report could run slow. One thing that you can do is take the structure of the command and turn it into a view in Business One, and then the building of all of the report data is actually run on the server and not the workstation. And typically, most of our servers are much more high-powered than our workstations. So, but not in all cases. So there are ways of taking, a report that's built off a command, turning that command into a view, which I'll be showing in a subsequent Crystal Reports tip and trick, so that you'll have another methodology for creating a Crystal Report as well when there's a lot of data that needs to be compiled first and foremost on the server to be used in the compilation of a report. So I will not keep you long today and hope that you will get value out of this little tip and have a very happy Thanksgiving. And thank you for taking the time to join us today on a busy day for most of us. Thanks much and happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.